Welcome to the themainallure podcast. I am your host, Laura, your unofficial mentor and motivator. Today, we're talking about something that creeps in quietly, then suddenly feels all consuming, and that's burnout. Whether you're a student, a parent, even an entrepreneur, or just someone that's trying to keep it all together, burnout doesn't really discriminate. So, in this episode, I'm going to break down what burnout actually looks like and what it's not, what leads us there, what it does to the mind and the body, and most importantly, how to get yourself out of it and maybe even prevent it next time you feel it creeping up. All right, so by definition, what is burnout? According to the World Health Organization, burnout is defined as a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. So, burnout can happen obviously at work most of the time, but it can also happen outside of work through perhaps caregiving. Maybe you're taking care of your parents, creative exhaustion, you're super excited by your project, and you don't find a way to manage your time. It could be emotional overload or just plain life pressure, right? And so, according to the American Psychological Association, burnout has these three main components. And the first one is emotional exhaustion. And this happens when you're pretty much mentally and physically drained. And if you could think about ways in which this has happened to you, everyone has a different lifestyle, a different experience. But when you think about things that could be emotionally exhausting, and this usually happens when you have a lot on your plate, you're working long hours, or maybe you're just multitasking way too many things. You have way too many things to deal with, and it could creep up on you at any time. So I hope that you're paying attention to these little signs as you're listening so that you can catch them hopefully on time. The second one is depersonalization. And this is when you start feeling detached or even cynical about your work, your responsibilities. And again, as a result of the previous, which was emotional exhaustion, you're probably not getting enough time for yourself. You're probably not getting enough time to decompress, de-stress. And as a result, everything just starts to irritate you, right? So make sure that you're spending that time recognizing these signs. And the third one is reduced personal accomplishment. And this often happens when you feel like you're just going and going and going, but you're not really seeing the results. Because if you think about it, we are creatures that we just love being rewarded for things. Obviously, if you have puppies or if you have pets, right, this is a natural way for them to continue to, this is how you train them, right? And so we're kind of, in a way, similar. The way that we get excited about continuing to do these different tasks, these different things, is by seeing progress, seeing results. So if you feel like you're not making an impact in any way, in whatever that you're doing, or maybe you're feeling like you're not good enough, chances are that you're going to start to feel irritated and upset because no matter how hard you're working, no matter how much work you're putting into something, you're still feeling tired. And yes, that's going to lead you to burnout. The thing about burnout is it doesn't happen overnight. It tends to build slowly. And here's what research shows about the most common causes. One of them is a lack of control. So whenever you feel like your schedule, your workload, and even the decisions that are being made are out of your hands, your stress is going to skyrocket. So in the end, you have to feel like you have a sense of ownership about what you're doing. You have autonomy. And if you ask, there's plenty of research out there that tells you this is what people tend to appreciate more in the workplace or even in general. Is the idea of having your own autonomy, being able to decide when you go into work, when you can leave, how much time you're spending at work, right? Like obviously, if it was up to us, we would only work a couple hours a day, right? But obviously we have to be responsible. So at least 8 hours a day. But obviously this will depend on your industry and where you work, the work environment, etc. But in general, it's understanding that if you know that your work schedule should be 8 hours, but you're finding yourself working 10, 12 hours a day, you're probably going to feel frustrated. And eventually that's going to get tiring. You're going to feel that lack of control that you so need. So be mindful of that. The other one is unclear expectations and not knowing exactly what's expected of you, or when somebody is constantly shifting goals. Eventually, this will create that sense of anxiety. I see this often when you work in, startup culture, for example, is very much like this, where obviously because there's a lot of ambiguity, you tend to kind of just go with the flow and see where things go. One day could be a slow day, but then tomorrow you're working really long hours, understanding how to manage those expectations. And if you're someone who is a supervisor, a manager, someone who oversees, a group of employees, I would definitely caution you to pay attention to that, because when you look through different surveys about work performance and work satisfaction, a lot of that has to do with not only making sure that your work-life balance is there, but also what is expected of you is always consistent. And the truth is that not knowing what to expect will definitely stress you more than you should be. Unclear expectations will stress you out more than you really need to be. This is why I say startup culture is not for everybody. But in most cases, you need to be able to not only shift expectations constantly, but also understanding that sometimes your goals are going to change. Because, especially when you're dealing with investors and their expectations and then the expectations of your users, your customers, a lot of the times that's going to be in conflict. And so this is why it's a little bit difficult to kind of manage those things. But at the end of the day, just know that you have to find a middle ground. So if you're a supervisor, if you're a manager, if you're a founder, co-founder, whatever it is, please understand that you want to make sure that the people that work for you are happy in those expectations. Prioritize things as you can and make sure that you follow through those roadmaps as you go through that, because it could eventually become very stressful for people to manage over time. The other thing that will definitely impact that is having no work-life balance. And there's always that line between being on and off, which could sometimes get blurry, especially if you're working from home, you're caring for children or your parents, or even building something on the side, right, like a side hustle. A lot of times that lack of work balance will definitely stress you out more than you need to be. And it could be very hard to manage once you get into that groove. So making sure that you pay attention to that will definitely help you in the long run. Something else that could also become absolutely crucial when it comes to burnout is that sense of perfectionism. Studies show that perfectionism is one of those top predictors of burnout, especially when you think of students who are perfect, they want those perfect A's across the board, or even entrepreneurs, right? Like they want to make sure like everything is absolutely perfect. If you find yourself, and I'm going to tell you this, if you find yourself after work, getting in the shower and you're thinking about work, thinking about your product, you're about to go to sleep, you're thinking about it, you're spending time with your loved ones, you're thinking about your product, guess what? You're absolutely heading down a path of burnout. So be careful with letting these ideas always creeping into your life and making sure to compartmentalize those so that you're not only affecting you, right? But also the people around you, your family, your friends. So pay attention to perfectionism because it will definitely lead you down a road of burnout. So the last one is overcommitment. I will tell you that I am absolutely guilty of this one. It's hard for me. So if you're a people pleaser, for example, this one, it could potentially become the vein of your existence. So overcommitting, saying yes to everything equals saying no to your peace of mind. There was a study done in 2022, I believe, where I think it was a Gallup report, where it was found that 76% of full-time workers experience burnout sometimes. and 28% feel burnout very often or all the time. That's not a few of us. That's really most of us. And I could tell you, again, as someone who has been there, who has overcommitted, overextended, themselves all the time, it's something that you kind of have to reconcile with because it could definitely creep up on you if you're not careful. And I know that sometimes we would just want to make people happy. We just want to make sure that we are there for the people we care about. We want to be present. We want to make an impact. But we cannot make an impact if we're sick, if we're not, if you're so tired that your passion it's kind of diminished. So make sure you're paying attention to those signs and not letting burnout get the best of you. Now, the thing about burnout is that it's not just about being tired. It really does have physical, mental, and even emotional effects on you. And these are the signs that you can look for to identify whether or not you're actually getting into that burnout phase. And one of them is sleep disruption. So if you find yourself that you're unable to sleep like you used to, maybe either you're going through insomnia or you're oversleeping even, then it could be a sign that you're going down that path of burnout. The other one is having a weakened immune system. If you think about it, when you lack sleep, and I've seen it on myself a few times, where when I'm so sleepy and tired, that the chances of you becoming sick as a result increase tremendously. You could get colds just as easily. You can get an illness, right? You could experience brain fog, fatigue, all of these things that will definitely reduce the productivity levels because of burnout. So it's really counterproductive. Always remember that memory and focus problems are a result, or at least an indication that you're going down that path of burnout. So pay attention and recognize it early. You're not getting yourself sick. You're not punishing your body. And that's what I would say when you're going through burnout. You're kind of punishing your body for just working too much. And your body is pretty much telling you like, hey, hello, I need a break. I need some time to unwind. Pay attention to your body. It's going to tell you what it's feeling, how it's feeling it. And one way that it could do that is when you start to feel irritable, you start to get anxious. Sometimes you could even be going through depression. And I know that it sounds crazy, like, well, how does burnout make me feel like this? And the truth is that you're probably not realizing that it's happening because you're working yourself or you're doing too much at once, but it's going to show in those ways. You're going to start to feel irritable. Things are just going to start bugging you. You're going to start being, not mean, but you're going to snap at people sometimes because you're just tired. Again, going back to that whole sleep deprivation, you're going to feel tired and just irritated because your body is just not well rested. It's not feeling healthy. And that's one of the ways that it's going to start showing by being irritated and anxious. But in extreme cases, I will say that it can also show by you breaking down, right? This is at that level where you've probably way past all of these other things that I've mentioned. And now you're at the point where you're breaking down, you're having panic attacks, or you're experiencing so much that you just want to up and quit and sell your things and, move to another country. I know I'm exaggerating, but we become so burnt out that our brains are kind of making us make rash decisions. And that's probably the best way that I can explain it. Start looking at it like, why am I changing my habits just because I want something that feels good at the time when I know that it's really just stress taking over? All right, so let's talk about some ways that you can fight back, or even better, you can recover from burnout. And the first one is you have to get honest with yourself. Ask yourself, what am I doing that's out of obligation? And what are you doing that is making you ignore your limits? So burnout recovery starts with that radical awareness, recognizing that you're probably shutting down your own needs in order to satisfy whatever it is that you're doing. So once you start recognizing that, you're on your way to healthier habits and understanding what you need to do. The second one is taking real breaks. And I'm not talking about, okay, I'm going to not work for the next 5 minutes or next 10 minutes. And yeah, I'm going to get on my phone now and I'm going to scroll through Instagram or TikTok, whatever. That's not a real break. You have to do absolutely nothing. And that's what I recommend as a real break. Don't use your phones. Don't go checking emails, right? Just because you're not doing that focus work doesn't mean that you need to do other things that are related to work. You need to know how to do absolutely nothing. Find a space where you can just be quiet and breathe and relax. And, sometimes even taking a day off on a random Tuesday will do that for you. Don't take a Friday off and then everybody's off and now you're going around running errands. Just find a day where you can really just dedicate it to yourself and you're not necessarily filling it with other things to do, right? The goal is to do absolutely nothing for that short amount of time so that you can unwind and reset. The third one is say no more often. And I know that it's hard. I know that sometimes we just want to be a good person and make sure that we're there for people. But you cannot be there for people if you're always saying yes, right? Because if you're always saying yes, you're not really showing up fully for whoever it is that you want to be there for. So burnout sometimes thrives on overcommitment, overextending yourself. So protect your yes like it's gold. If you feel like you need to say yes, sure, but pick your yeses more wisely. Burnout recovery is physical, and just taking 20 minutes of movement and, those 7-8 hours of sleep that you need will absolutely increase your well-being, your wellness in so many ways. So you could spend it by walking, maybe stretching, doing a little yoga here and there, doing the downward dog, whatever you call it. Just move your body, feel your body, give your body some love. Understand that it's not just about doing things because you have to do them. Move your body and let it take you where it needs to go, right? Like let your body flow, stretch it out, and your body's going to be super grateful for that in the end. The last thing, the fifth one, is to redefine productivity. I know that sometimes we think of productivity as you need to meet a goal. You need to complete, 10 different tasks a day. If you only do 8 and now you feel unproductive, well, guess what? That's not really how we should be defining productivity. You could be doing 10 different things, but if you're doing them halfway, no, like it's better to do 5 in complete focus than doing 10 things just to say you did 10 things. And the truth is that doesn't mean that you're lazy for resting or for taking your time and doing those other tasks. You're not failing because you're slowing down. Always look at that slowing down as progress through quality, not quantity. I know that there was a study done by Stanford, and it showed that productivity drops sharply after working 50 hours per week. Like I mentioned before, quality over quantity. If you can focus for the first 30 hours and do absolutely your best work during that time, and then making sure that you're taking those breaks, that you're taking care of yourself, resting enough in between that, it's going to show much better productivity over time. And you have a system that works. Now, let's be real. Burnout feels like failure when you're in it, but here's what it teaches us if we choose to listen to our body. And the truth is that our body keeps the score. And there's actually a great book called The Body Keeps the Score. I forgot the author. I can probably add the link in the description. I'll try to do that. But the idea is that your body will speak up if you don't. So even if you choose to push yourself to the limit, your body's going to start to show you that, you know what, the body is telling you to stop, right? If all of a sudden you're experiencing brain fog, you're having a hard time concentrating, feeling tired, sleepy even, you're not feeling like yourself, and your work is not the best quality, and chances are that you're starting to burn out. We need to slow down or else your body's going to start failing you. The other thing is that you're not meant to be on all the time. And I like to think of, I don't know if you've seen videos of bears who, they eat up a storm right before winter and then they just sleep. They sleep through the winter because they're like, you know what? Winter's coming. I'm just going to fill my belly up and rest for the rest of the winter. And then when you see them wake up, they're absolutely skinny and like disheveled. It looks pretty funny, actually. But the idea is like they know that through the winter, most of their prey, they go hide, they go south, wherever they do. So they're literally just saving their energy for that time when they actually need to work. And, whether it's hunting or doing whatever, going to swim in someone's pool. I've seen those videos, which are super hilarious. But the idea is you're not supposed to be on all the time. So find out when you're supposed to be on and when you need to shut that off, because if you don't, if your brain is always on, then you're not giving yourself enough rest. And rest is not really a reward. It is supposed to be your foundation. It's your God-given right. We all deserve rest. It doesn't matter how much we work or how much we think we can tolerate. Rest is essential. Don't forget that. And if you burn out doing something you love, it means that even then, passion has its limits. So you could be absolutely obsessed, absolutely passionate about something, but if you're burned out, you're not going to show up as your best self. So pay attention to burnout, pay attention to your limits, because your worth is not measured in productivity. So just remember that. Quality over quantity. And make sure that you're allowing time to rest and to recuperate from all the hard work and amazing things that you're doing. So if this episode made you feel seen, take that as your permission slip. And I'm going to give you a permission slip to slow down and take it easy. Don't overwork yourself. Take it from me. I'm someone who I've been working since I was 15. And, you start feeling it after a while. You start feeling like those little aches and pains and a headache here and there. So make sure that you're making time for yourself, making time to break, to rest, to relax. Take those vacations, take those PTO days if you have them. Do not let them go to waste. Next time you think about burnout, think of it as not a weakness, but a warning light. We always take our cars to get tune-ups, oil changes, we check the brakes, right? Whenever that light comes on, we're the first ones to go to the mechanic, make sure that the car is working, right? We're not trying to get stranded anywhere. So it's the same thing with our body. So make sure you check that warning light and don't ignore it. Because sometimes that is the wake-up call that you didn't know you needed, but it shows up on time. So don't ignore it. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who is carrying a little too much. And if you're the one going through burnout right now, remember, you don't have to stay that way. Listen to the signs that I spoke to today and make sure that you're paying attention. So that is your challenge this week. Make sure that you're listening to your body. Make sure that you're paying attention to those warning signs so that you're not waiting until it's too late. Until next time, take care of yourself. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, show me some love. And again, this is the Themainallure podcast. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate you. Until next time, take care. Bye.